Sometimes when using a cartridge, it takes so long for the ink to get through the feed and into the nib. I tried squeezing the cartridge, but the plastic is too dense. Must be a platinum pen, they've got some of the thickest cartridges. Aside from shaking the pen, which could result in a mess, what other options do I have? Well, I don't know what you're considering shaking, Kate, but you really don't need to go nuts with it. The way that I was taught by Richard Binder to get ink out of your pen when you're trying to, and I'm gonna try to demonstrate this in a way that makes sense. I'm looking for something to grab, but I'll use my pen case here. So pretend like this is the writing surface. So when you're writing and you need to force a little bit of ink down in the feed, you know, if you have a converter pen, it's easy because you can just take and you can just push a little bit down in there. When you have a cartridge load onto the back, it's not as easy to do that. And especially if you have one that you can't squeeze. So what do? The thing that I find that works the best and what Richard taught me is you have your writing surface here. You're writing with your pen, it's a little dry, so hike the pen up in your hand a little bit, okay, and kind of hold your fingers up. And then you take and you hit the ball of your heel, the ball of your hand right there, and you hit it just like that. So it's gonna cause, I mean, if you're shaking it like this, you're gonna be hitting it pretty hard and you're gonna probably splatter ink. You still might do it a little bit this way, but it just gives you a little more control when you're doing it. And you can try it a few times and then you can write and see if it does it. You know, if you flick a little bit of ink down onto the paper that you've done it enough and you can keep going. But I find that half the time I don't even need to go to that extreme. I don't have to actually flick ink onto the paper. I can just pound it a couple of times and that'll help to get it going. So that would be my first thing because it's super easy to do as long as you're like in a place where banging on the table is not going to be weird. You know, you're going to be like Kramer, like the yep! You know, that kind of thing. Sorry, that was loud, but nice little Seinfeld reference there. So you're gonna be hitting on the table like that. That's one way to do it. You don't wanna shake it in terms of like flicking it like this. That's gonna cause ink to go everywhere. You don't wanna go like this. I think that's what most people do is they tend to treat it like it's an old school Polaroid and they just kind of flop it around, which you're not supposed to do that either because it'll make the picture blurry. It doesn't actually help it to get exposure anymore. So you just, you know, if you do it, just do little light flicks like this. You don't want to like hold on the end and go whack, 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 because that's going to cause ink to just go nuts. And that's what I think what you're saying you don't want to do. I would say also something else that you can do is just let it sit for a while. You know, the ink will eventually work its way down. It's going to take its time, you know, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a couple of minutes, depends on the feed design and the type of ink and all these sorts of things. So it will eventually go, especially if you can hold it upright like this so that the ink is, you know, just being encouraged by gravity to work its way through the feed. That can help. You can also wet the feed a little bit. That can help. So if you had ink in it previously, it already will be a little primed a little bit, so it'll be easier. But if you wet it with water, that'll saturate the feed, and then you can put your cartridge in. It's gonna blend with the water a little bit, but then you can take a paper towel and you know, just tear off a paper towel, kind of fold it up like this. You wet your feed and you have your ink in the back, and then you kind of just touch the nib to the paper towel like that, and it will help to encourage the capillary action to draw ink down out of the pen. Now you might still have to wait like 30 seconds for the ink to start coming down here, and then you wet it and then you can get it going. That's another way that it can help. Or you can just switch to a converter and use bottled ink. That's a whole other thing that I would encourage you to do because I like bottled ink better anyway, but that should be able to get you going. Cool? All right, good deal. We are rocking and rolling this week.